IVM. This episode may contain spoilers. You have been warned. Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. 23rd September 2019 are when the Emmys will air. And to celebrate the Emmy nominations and all of the best actors and best shows of the year gone by, the next 3 weeks are going to be all about the Emmys on Mr. and Mrs. Binge-Watch. Hello and welcome. I'm Janice and of course with me is the husband, the Mr. Aniruddha, you're going to say hi.
Hi.
All right. So like I just said, for the next 3 weeks, we're only going to talk about all of the shows, all of the actors, all of the limited series that we loved. And in today's episode, we're going to go over all the actors nominated in the drama categories. The first category, of course, that we're going to debate, Ani, is Best Actor Drama. So the nominees and the outstanding drama actor are, there's Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul.
Stop right there. Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul wins it. We don't need to talk about it anymore. We can just skip over the rest.
Okay, you are going to hear many, many love letters about Better Call Saul from Aniruddha. The other nominees are Kit Harington for Game of Thrones, Jason Bateman for Ozark, Sterling K. Brown for This Is Us, Milo Ventimiglia for This Is Us, and Billy Porter for Pose. What do we think?
Can I ask you what the is Kit Harington doing in these nominees, really? I mean, Jon Snow, are you serious?
Bichara, yaar.
Look.
Bichara, usne itna mehnat kiya. So what, yaar? So what? It's okay. Like,
Look,
I don't think he deserves to win by a long shot, even though, by the way, some trade pundits do have him winning in this category.
That would be a travesty. That would only be because of the popularity of the show. But I am so friggin' excited to see Bob Odenkirk as a front runner. And a front runner, I mean, if he does not win, I'm going to be heartbroken. Bob Odenkirk is an actor we've been seeing for decades, man. He's a fucking legend. He's done such great roles over a period of time. Not just in comedy shows, even in serious roles in a film like Nebraska or that amazing character that he played on Fargo. He's a comic legend, whether, starting out with Saturday Night Live. He's done great stuff with Conan O'Brien show. He also has that little sketch comedy show with David Cross on Netflix. And, I mean, he played one of the most, memorable characters on Breaking Bad. In fact, when you look at the Breaking Bad ensemble of actors, you've got Walter White, you've got Mike Armentrout played by Jonathan Banks. But you wouldn't imagine there to be a spin-off of a character like Saul Goodman, which was this, sort of shady lawyer that Bob Odenkirk played on the show. But Vince Gilligan, who was the creator of Breaking Bad, along with Peter Gould, who was one of the writers on Breaking Bad, have managed to create this spin-off. With spin-offs, there's this tricky business because you're always going to hold that up against the original show and it may not always be as good. Or, you're afraid of where they might take a show that you already love.
Right.
But Better Call Saul has just been, it's almost like you're within the Breaking Bad universe at all times, but at the same time, it's fresh, it's, it's interesting, it never ever loses your attention and it just keeps getting better and better and better. Season 4 of which was absolutely fantastic. And I have not wanted anything more than seeing Bob Odenkirk being feted at the highest stage possible. So I don't know if there are other people. I mean, if just doing a cursory glance, I would think the only competition that he really has is in Sterling K. Brown, who's already won an Emmy for Best Actor for his role on This Is Us. The others, I mean, Milo Ventimiglia, I think good actor, does a great job on This Is Us, but I mean, I'm not sure if it's an award-winning role. Like we are going to be discussing even in our other episodes, even though Janice and I have tried to watch pretty much all the shows that have been nominated, we somehow haven't had the time to watch Pose, which is on Netflix. So
and Porter is actually a close number 2 to Odenkirk.
Yes.
So if you go by just what the trade pundits are saying right now, of course, there's Bob Odenkirk, who's at number 1, who's likely to take home the award this year. Because also what's surprising is that despite the fact that, Better Call Saul gets nominated every year, it's yet to take home a single Emmy. And this might just be the year that changes that. I mean, especially with Bob Odenkirk taking home the best actor in a lead drama series.
It's one of the most overlooked shows ever. Also, it's very easy for a Better Call Saul to sort of fly under the radar. Because, I mean, again, like I said, just because it can't match the greatness of Breaking Bad, because it's a most impossible sort of act to follow. I think I mean, of course, we are today only going to be talking about the actors, but you're right. I mean, Better Call Saul is a show that deserves a lot of love in not just acting, but even the writing categories, maybe even as best show.
What do you think, though? You know, a lot of people are also talking about, just because Game of Thrones has picked up the highest number of nominations for any show ever this year, a lot of people are talking about how Emmy voters may decide to just send off one of the most epic shows of all time in a grand fashion and maybe just hand it over to Kit Harington. Would that be like a huge, huge surprise?
Yeah, I mean, while I agree that Game of Thrones having the legendary status that it does, and we're going to talk about how that might actually upset the best drama category in a later episode. I do believe that Game of Thrones has the possibility of winning in certain categories like best drama and in sort of best direction and possibly best writing. And while it's always had a great ensemble, I mean, Peter Dinklage has been a shoe-in pretty much every year as best supporting actor, because he really is the best actor on the show. It's not like the show has outstanding actors, right? It's
Correct.
just they've got such great characters.
It has like all the characters have this great outstanding moment. Of course, like when Jon Snow comes back to life, or when Macy kills, the Night King. So they all have these big moments, but they're not essentially great actors. I mean, but
I think the two best actors on the show are Peter Dinklage and Lena Headey. The two Lannister siblings are really the best actors in terms of pure acting.
Yeah.
Kit Harington being nominated is a surprise to me, frankly. It also must be...
Given the weak season that the show just had, yeah.
Also because the Americans is out of the race. So Matthew Rhys, who was always a lock for one of the best actors, is out of the race. Kevin Spacey is out of the race for obvious reasons for House of Cards. So that also creates sometimes a vacuum for one of the other actors to sort of get in.
Yeah, because if you just look at the nominations, I mean, see, Sterling K. Brown, of course, This Is Us has not had a great last season. In fact, a lot of people, I mean, critics have called it their weakest season yet. So Sterling K. Brown and Milo...
But I don't think when we discuss performances,
I'm
the
just saying
entire quality of the season has, just like how the legendary status of Game of Thrones should not have a bearing on Kit Harington's performance. Also because it's not a show that's driven by one actor.
Of course.
Because it's such an ensemble piece. It's not like, say, what a Breaking Bad used to be, or what an Americans was, or even what a Mad Men was, for that matter.
In fact, on Game of Thrones, it's more also about the universe that they've created than anything else. I mean, we're in shock and awe looking at the fact that freaking hell, there are dragons on this damn show.
Right.
How do you top that?
Right. And Sterling K. Brown, I mean, he is easily the two most exciting African American actors at the moment. One is Mahershala Ali, who's once again,
nominated
gone on
this year as well.
And he's done such great work, even in whether it was Green Book that he won the Oscar for, or the fact that he gave a fantastic performance in True Detective season 3, where the show sort of made a comeback of sorts. But Sterling K. Brown is this another, sort of freakishly good acting talent who, I mean, you can give him anything. Whether he plays the lawyer on People vs. O.J. Simpson, or he's playing this great dad on This Is Us, or a great son, or a great brother.
What I mean to say is, this season of This Is Us, largely the focus has shifted to, the entire, the other son's journey to Vietnam, discovering his dad's roots in the war, etc., etc. Sterling K. Brown just, I mean, in comparison to previous seasons, does not have that many wow moments.
Yeah,
the narrative is not focused so much on him in this season.
Right.
Which is also possibly, I mean, that of course affects what you're going to bring to the table.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, which is why you're right. Which is why he may not be as much of a favorite as he was in the first two seasons. But I'm saying, given this list, see, also a lot of times what happens is that when we look at a great set of nominees, it's also supposed to blow you away, right? Like it happens pretty much every year at the Oscars, where the best supporting actor category is always the strongest of the night.
Yeah.
Because it always has 4 or 5 such great performances that it's almost, there's a favorite, but you wouldn't mind one of the others winning either, because they're that great. My point is that in this list of 6 actors, and having not watched Pose and hence not knowing, but of course we've read reviews and Billy Porter is supposed to be extremely brilliant on the show. I'm saying, given this list and given how low I feel chances of Milo Ventimiglia is, and I would like to even put Kit Harington in that bracket, although I might be completely wrong about it. If we look at the 3 best performances, I would say it's Bob Odenkirk by far. Then there's Sterling K. Brown. Even Jason Bateman on Ozark. Fine actor. Great performance.
But surprising nomination.
No, it's second year in a row. Jason Bateman's always gotten nominated. I mean, 2 seasons he's been nominated both years. It's a author-backed role, right? And him and Laura Linney are basically the people who are driving the show. And it's again, I mean, a lot of people feel that in fact Ozark is the new age Breaking Bad in a sense, because it's about a regular family getting involved in a crime of, epic proportions. But look, all said and done, I just want to see that Bob Odenkirk speech, because even if you had great actors, even when he was nominated against, say, Kevin Spacey or a Matthew Rhys, even then Bob Odenkirk used to be a force to reckon with. And I think in this list of 6, I mean, it would be a shame if anybody else walks away with that Emmy.
Okay, so your money's on Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul. The pundits have their money between Bob Odenkirk and Billy Porter. And truthfully, I don't really care about the rest on this list. I mean, I'm just being really honest when I say that.
You're right.
Better Call Saul is a show that I have not loved as much as you. So obviously for me, it's okay, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, Bob Odenkirk remains a legend.
I get it. So you're saying your money's on Bob.
And I would just like to say that Sterling K. Brown just gives the best acceptance speeches ever.
Yeah, that would be...
So just for that, if he was to win another Emmy, I wouldn't mind that at all.
I'm quite certain right now, anyone who goes on these Emmy, Oscar, Grammy stages, their speech writing is a whole different process. If you win a big award on that night and you come on stage and just you're not able to make an impact, shame on you. On the other side, we're going to debate the Outstanding Drama Actress category.
Hey everybody, welcome to another great week on the IVM podcast. It's been a really fun week. Also, just a reminder, if you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. One thing that we are trying to do as much of as possible, and we want to keep doing this, is if you hear something that you really enjoy, take a screenshot of it and tag us on whatever social media platform you prefer, and we'll try and repost that. If you want to keep your listening light and funny this week, check out shows like Cyrus Says, Golgappa, and the Empowering series. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus talks to hosts of another IVM show, Football Shootball, Gaurav Sapre, Karthik Iyer, and Sivram Padmanabhan. Tune in to listen to some fun conversation about sports, advertising, and Bollywood. On Golgappa, Trupti is joined by cinematographer Milind Zog, who shares rib-tickling stories from his shoots. And on the Empowering series, Zarina is joined by comedian Suresh Menon. They talk about his early days in comedy, his chemistry with Jose, and how he started Khan Masti. If pop culture is what's going to get your engine going this week, then, we got shows like Geek Fruit, where Tejas and Jishnu this week are rounding up the hits and misses of announcements made at Disney's D23 Expo. Mr. and Mrs. Binge-Watch, that's a really fun show where Janice and Aniruddha talk about TV showrunner Genji Kohan and her extremely successful Netflix shows. That's Orange is the New Black, and I can't remember the other one, but they've got another really good one too. On IVM Likes, Abbas, Antariksha, and Darius discuss the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and rate their top 5 Tarantino films. Man, I wish they'd called me to do that. So if you only have a really short time and you want to check out some of our shorter stuff, you can check out Origins of Things, where Chuck narrates a brand origin story involving a tabloid and a gold digger. It's going to be fun guessing which brand this is. And on The Habit Coach, Ashton shares some interesting facts about coffees and afternoon naps. And also don't forget to check out Urmi Kothari on the Kinetic Living podcast, where she has Thriving Thursdays and Tabata Tuesdays, both of which are, if you want to be fit, you should do those things. On our new Coming of Age show, Agla Station Adulthood, host Ritasha and Ayushi discuss casual dating, hookups, and modern-day love. On Keeping It Queer, Naveen and Farhad talk to producer Madhuri Advani about body image issues. But with that, let's get you on with the show.
All right, then, this is first of the Emmy specials that Janice and I will be bringing for all of you over the next 3 weeks until the Emmys. And today we are discussing all the actors who have been nominated in the drama categories. We just had a conversation about the Outstanding Drama Actor, and we would believe and would like for Bob Odenkirk to win that. Moving on to the drama female actors, there's Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, there's Robin Wright from House of Cards, who's an absolute regular on the nominee list. Then there's Viola Davis for How to Get Away with Murder, a legendary actor on a shit show who's also won for the show more than once. Then there's, of course, Sandra Oh for Killing Eve, who emerged as the favorite last year when the first season aired, and then she went on to win. She didn't win last time.
She lost to Claire Foy for the crown.
To Claire Foy, which was a fitting loss, I would say. Then there's Jodie Comer for Killing Eve. Again, somebody who was overlooked for the drama actress category last time. But, everybody believes should have been there in the running. Then there's Mandy Moore for This Is Us, which is sort of the female version of Milo Ventimiglia for This Is Us.
And it's a first-time nomination for Mandy Moore.
And she's fantastic on the show. There's no doubts about that. I'm just not sure, what her chances are. And then there's Laura Linney for Ozark, who delivers another fantastic performance, I would say. But Janice, who's your favorite among these 7?
Without a doubt, I would be very happy if they gave it to Sandra Oh or to Jodie Comer. Sandra Oh in the last year, we were all rooting for her. I remember I was just like, Claire Foy gave a beautiful performance in The Crown, don't get me wrong. But Sandra Oh in that season 1 carries the show on her shoulders. And the fact that she's been nominated yet again with a brilliant second season and could stand a chance to win, I'd be really happy if O takes it home. I'd also be happy if Villanelle, aka Jodie Comer, takes it home. I would be upset if sort of someone like an Emilia Clarke took it home, really. Or worse still, a Viola Davis. This is the problem with a show like How to Get Away with Murder. You've got such a brilliant lead actor who gets you a freaking nomination every year. What are you doing with the writing?
But also Viola Davis, I'm sorry. I remember when she won a couple of years ago. She is one of the greatest actors acting in Hollywood at the moment. But when a show like How to Get Away with Murder, which at least with you and me, and of course it must have some sort of popularity, which is why they keep renewing the show, is not a show that works at all. And I also find Davis to be slightly theatrical, not because of her performance is not worthy or anything. It's just the nature of the show is such that she's supposed to perform at a slightly higher sort of a decibel level, so to speak.
I also felt like Shonda Rhimes and the makers of the show were slightly manipulative in the fact that they would, constantly have these certain beats in How to Get Away with Murder. They would be like these, you knew that every time Davis had a breakdown, there would be these moments of her taking off her wig, taking off the makeup and crying and looking into camera. And the thing is, the first time they did it, we were like, wow.
That's not coming down her nose.
Yeah, the first time they did it, we were like, wow, this is amazing. But now, guys, we live in an age of Orange is the New Black, where all these things don't matter. People taking off makeup and doing a really ugly showdown for the cameras.
Also, Sandra Oh on Killing Eve isn't she's
I was
always...
talking about Viola Davis.
No, but I'm saying even Sandra Oh on Killing Eve is not somebody who's like always prim and proper and perfectly dressed and
I think that's
made-up.
the way to go now, right? If you're prim and proper because your show demands it, not because you just want to look pretty on camera anymore.
Yeah. But I would disagree with you. If Claire Foy was in this list, and Claire Foy obviously now next year you're not going to see her back because she's been replaced by Olivia Colman, who can just take the awards right now and walk away home.
Wait, yaar. What if the season is shit? What if it's not a great? What if they've not done justice to the next chapter?
Firstly, Olivia Colman is just amazing in everything she does.
Maybe if a Viola Davis is getting nominated on a shit show, maybe even if
right.
The Crown
So
is
I
not
have no doubts about the fact that the season 3 of Crown is something I'm looking forward to like crazy, because Olivia Colman is. She won the Emmy for The Favourite earlier this year, and I would think that with an Emmy, she won the Oscar for The Favourite earlier this year, and I feel that there's an Emmy coming her way next year. But I also feel with Claire Foy not being here and Elizabeth Moss not being in here, kind of opens up the category slightly, which increases Sandra Oh's chances of winning more.
Yeah.
And like you said, if Jodie Comer, sort of again, Villanelle's performance was fantastic.
Why can't they split it? Just like they do it on the show. Like split screen
if the
time,
votes split, the votes split.
Moments.
But it's it's unlikely because of the number of Emmy voters. It's always it's not like Filmfare Awards where it's like a jury sitting together and saying ke matlab Ayushmann Khurrana ko bhi do, Vicky Kaushal ko bhi do, everybody goes home happy.
Rajkumar ko bhi de do, koi critics wala award.
See, it's different when there is a smaller group of people winning or picking winners, right? Because then what happens is that there can be consensus and they can all agree on the fact that more than one person is deserving. But with the kind of and also the way Emmy and Oscar votes work, in fact their votes would get divided, because if there are Killing Eve fans who are voting for the two actors,
it would lead to a split. Yeah,
it will lead to a split, increasing the chances of one of the others. I wouldn't be surprised if Viola Davis wins again, although I'm really
What? No. I feel like if O and Comer don't take it home, the strongest contender according to me after that honestly would be Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke, please, yeah. None of the Game of Thrones actors like either Emilia or Kit Harington deserve. How can they be given Best Actor and Best Actress awards?
Because they were
They're
the
not
lead protagonists on a show
but
that...
I mean, they are very average performances. I mean, her entire 8-season arc on Game of Thrones
I know
has
what you
ridden on
mean.
her giving those speeches that are supposed to rile people up and
I
stuff like
know
that. There
what
is
you
no...
mean, and probably in comparison, if Lena Headey had that much screen time on the show, she would probably be a more deserving candidate to be in this
if
list.
Lena Headey was in the Best Actress
Is it Lena
run,
or Lena? I always call it Lena Headey.
if she was in the run, then I would have said that would make things interesting. Right now, I think in this list, Sandra Oh looks like the clear winner to me, and I hope she wins because, again, Asian actor who's broken onto the big scene with a author-backed role.
To be fair, though, Sandra Oh was always big, dude. I mean, she was probably the second most important character on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, but it's different from
and
being
Grey's
the
Anatomy,
most
don't
important
forget, was
character,
like a freaking audience favorite. I mean, they did how many? 12, 11 seasons of that damn show. So,
yeah, but it's different from, I mean, you have breakout roles and shows that you're popular for, and then there's a role like Killing Eve that you'd give your right arm for.
Of course. I'm just saying that I feel
Also, it's really, also it's weird. For years, Robin Wright was in the running, and I remember in the first 3 to 4 seasons of House of Cards, she was fantastic season after season after season, and I would be rooting for her to win. In fact, I remember the 4th season, I wish that when it looked like it might be the final season because we didn't know what was going to happen with season 5, we wished that she won that, or I wish that she won that because I believe that Robin Wright, is one of the best actors and she's excellent in House of Cards. But it's almost like what we were talking about earlier, like How to Get Away with Murder, because season 5 of House of Cards sucked balls, and that's the only way I can say it. It almost feels like Robin Wright's chances of winning are lower. Also because I feel there is a general negative sort of a sentiment towards the show after what happened with Kevin Spacey, right?
I mean, Netflix tried to turn it on its head. They tried to do an all they're like, we killed him off. We gave Robin Wright central billing. We made sure the show was about her. But still, something about the sentiment just felt very hollow. And the show in itself, I mean... Oh God, how many times will she break the fourth wall? How many times will she try all those used and abused tropes that, Robin...
Yeah, but that's a writing flaw.
So I'm saying that the show didn't do her justice. They could have, if, for example, after they killed off Kevin Spacey, if they came back with a season that was spectacular in terms of even the plot and where they took it, we would be having a very different discussion. But I'm saying what the makers did with that final season felt like we're trying to make a point.
Yeah,
we're trying to make a point about how Kevin Spacey got Me Too'd and how we stand with all the women, and that's why it's going to come into the theme of how we write everything. The number of references they made to him being buried, his dead body, how they killed him. Oh God.
No, but again, we're talking about the show as a whole. I'm saying when House of Cards was firing on all cylinders and both Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright would get nominated, I would always wish for Robin Wright to win for more than Kevin Spacey to win. And you know what? I'm just saying this. I'm just putting this out there. Of course, Sandra Oh, favorite. I hope it's not Viola Davis. I am saying that if by any miracle Robin Wright happens to win this category, I think it would still be totally deserving because at the end of the day, she has played a character brilliantly over 5 seasons. And I mean,
that's the same token. No, 1 second. That's the same token kind of award that we're talking about.
No. I'm saying that if you're using that logic to give the award to somebody like Emilia Clarke, who's been part of 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, which is a really popular show and played an important role on it. I'm saying if that is a sentiment on which you might win an award, then you'd rather give it to somebody like Robin Wright, who's given fantastic performances across 5 seasons of a show.
To be really honest, I think our entire debate right now is pointless because there's very little chance of an upset. If it's not even Sandra Oh, it's Jodie Comer, and really we'll all be happy with that as well.
But look, we are not trying to predict, right? We are trying to pick our favorites. So, I mean, I would say that, okay, fine. Just to wrap this up, I would say Sandra Oh, favorite to win. Jodie Comer would come second. And then if I'd have to pick a jack in the pack who I wish would win, it would be Robin Wright for me. I'm not saying that she's a favorite or even likely to win, but I fucking love Robin Wright and I think she's done an excellent job across 5 seasons and, she totally deserves to win that Emmy.
No, I mean, my third pick after Sandra and Jodie would probably be Emilia Clarke.
For what?
I mean, hello, we're talking about our
so
likes
correct,
and
that's
dislikes.
Your pick,
right?
really?
Yeah.
Khaleesi?
Listen,
Again, for that hair, is it?
They picked Khaleesi because Khaleesi could give those, rousing speeches.
How is it that a person
Once,
does not
I
get
feel.
nominated for 7 seasons of a show, which clearly means that they have not done a good enough job to get nominated? Not like she's not good on the show, and then gets nominated in the final season and wins.
Anyway, that's also Mandy Moore's story, by the way, because everyone in her cast seems to have been nominated ahead of her, and this is her first nomination. And I'm still surprised that they nominated her because, even with all the drama and the crying and the amazing writing, I mean, Mandy Moore still doesn't deserve a nomination on this.
No, but she's fabulous on the new season.
She's
She
okay.
really, I mean, in fact, the scenes.
She's okay. I'm like, where's Kate?
The scenes
Where's
of
Kate?
season 3 that really moved me all had Mandy Moore in them.
Yeah, but like as background.
Anyway, so that was our sort of just going over the outstanding drama actresses one last time. There's Emilia Clarke, Robin Wright, Viola Davis, Sandra Oh, Jodie Comer, Mandy Moore and Laura Linney for Ozark. On the other side, Janice and I will be talking about the outstanding supporting actor and actress in a drama series categories.
Hello everyone, welcome to Tech Careers in the new podcast series presented by Accenture. I'm your host Shiladitya Mukhopadhyay. In this podcast series, we'll get you the latest and greatest in the world of technology that's shaping the future of business as we know it. We're talking intelligent platforms, cloud, AI, blockchain, extended reality, and a whole lot more. Every fortnight on Wednesdays, we'll have for you a hot topic with expert speakers from Accenture talking about top trends in the space, how these are changing the world and creating growth across industries. And importantly, we'll tell you how you can learn more, build your skills and expertise to grow and stay relevant in your career. Episodes out on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcast from.
All right, we're back and we're discussing the outstanding supporting actor in a drama series category. The category that's very, very widely known to probably be taken home by the actor who takes it almost every year, Peter Dinklage. But for the sake of debate, I'm going to read out the nominees. The nominees are Jonathan Banks for Better Call Saul, Giancarlo Esposito for Better Call Saul, Alfie Allen for Game of Thrones, Nicolas Coster-Waldau for Game of Thrones, Peter Dinklage for Game of Thrones, Michael Kelly aka Doug Stamper for House of Cards, and Chris Sullivan aka Toby for This Is Us.
In this list, Peter Dinklage is the strongest actor. Has been winning year after year after year, will probably take the award this year as well. And there's no doubting why he should win because he's such a fantastic actor. But just going by season 8 and the amount of screen time he had, I think they did very little justice to his character when you think about it, right? Because the focus of the show was really on the Starks this time, whether it was Sansa, whether it was Jon Snow himself. And Peter Dinklage, of course, got that outstanding moment in the season finale, which is when he basically, showed the path ahead in terms of who should be leading. But, if I'm going by this list again, I mean, let's just get those guys who I think are least likely to win out. Basically, this whole Game of Thrones cast should have just been thrown out.
So what's happened this year,
Kit
right?
Harington, Emilia Clarke, pointless. Again, Nicolas Coster-Waldau, I don't know if he deserves to be in the best supporting actor.
Alfie Allen again, God knows.
He played Theon Greyjoy, he was good, but again, I'm not sure if it's an Emmy-winning performance.
So you know what happened, right? Because the makers or the creators of Game of Thrones didn't send in a lot of the other actors' nominations. So their agents decided to do it. And which is why we see so many Game of Thrones actors nominated this year.
Yeah, it's like, this is what I was trying to talk to you about in the last segment, is that actors who have been working in the same show season after season after season and have been overlooked, how do they suddenly become favorites in a certain... Okay, it's got to do with the fact that they have great arcs or that they've given great performance.
No, but it's also got to do with the fact that so many of the regular shows have either ended
I think it's
or
got to do
have
with that.
have not sort of made the cutoff in the time for this year's Emmys.
I think it's got to do with that. It's got to do with the fact that because we are in a sort of a slightly... This is going to be
it's a smaller pool of actors to choose from.
It's going to be a weak Emmys because the categories aren't... I think the more interesting categories are going to be the limited series and the TV movie
movies,
categories because there they've got some fantastic actors. Also, I think comedy was brilliant the last year.
I mean, if you're seeing so many of the nominations this year have more than one actor from a particular show being nominated.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
that may also be because the show is indeed great, but that is also purely because we have lesser number of shows to pick from.
No, but also they are from shows which have great ensembles. Now, see, I'm surprised that somebody like, I think Orange is the New Black also missed the cutout period, because somebody like Uzo Aduba, who like we discussed and we're obviously going to move to the Best Supporting Actress category, is not even in the running, but she's fantastic. Similarly, I think the three shows which benefited from due to their ensembles, one is Game of Thrones, second is This Is Us, and the third is Better Call Saul.
Well, This Is Us, I feel like would have rounded up its usual nominations in every category.
Sterling
In
K.
any
Brown
case.
was every year.
Yeah.
And I thought Toby, who's been nominated for Best Supporting Actor, really delivers a fantastic performance. I'm not so sure about Milo Ventimiglia or Mandy Moore.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, looking at this category, if you'd ask me, apart from Peter Dinklage, who deserves to win, I would say it would be Jonathan Banks for Better Call Saul. Again, Mike Ehrmantraut, who was a character on Breaking Bad. And it's amazing, all the three people who've been nominated, there is Bob Odenkirk, Jonathan Banks, and Giancarlo Esposito, all played these legendary characters on the show,
Breaking
right?
Bad, yeah.
So Esposito played Gus Fring, Banks played Mike Ehrmantraut. And now they are coming back in a show where they get their tracks sort of expanded, and they are not just playing the side character to Walter White.
It's what would happen, for example, like a Entourage may, like if Ari Gold finally starts his own agency, and all those characters we saw in smaller roles now start getting much, much bigger roles. That would be something. Well, we've talked about Ari Gold getting his own show. Why hasn't it happened? Now to nahi hoga.
There's no way it's going to happen anymore. But essentially, I would say for me, it's a toss-up between Peter Dinklage and Jonathan Banks. But we've got to be
I mean, because we were talking about Robin Wright and how she's been so consistently great over 5 seasons, but of course, has not managed to, so is probably not in the running this year. I also feel like Michael Kelly, Doug Stamper. What a great actor.
Yeah, but Michael Kelly again has been much like Odenkirk, has been one of the most familiar faces on TV. We've seen him play so many great supporting actors on so many different shows. And I agree with you, but I again feel, Michael Kelly also got a greater role to play in this season because of the elimination of Kevin Spacey from the cast list. So Michael Kelly, who was earlier just a side, supporting performer, and is still a supporting performer, but got a greater arc this season, which is what increased his chances of getting nominated. I agree with you. Michael Kelly is great. Doug Stamper is a character that purely works, his silences, the fact that he can communicate so much with such few words. And I also
like the fact that he can be so twisted and actually, but most of the time he's just playing it really straight.
Yeah, and this is the first season where Michael Kelly, Doug Stamper's character, is batting for himself. Earlier he was just sort of Frank's sidekick, but now he's really working for himself. So, I don't see Michael Kelly winning, frankly. Since we are talking about how Game of Thrones is, saying goodbye, and, it would just make sense for them to win a lot of awards. Peter Dinklage winning, even though he didn't have a great season, would make sense because, like I was saying earlier, at least he's given great performances across 8 seasons.
And you're saying that would be a better hat tip to Game of Thrones possibly than a Michael Kelly winning for House of Cards, which now we all know ended in flames in the last season.
I would say that's a better tribute to a show, if you must give an actor, than either Kit Harington or Emilia Clarke, who really, really don't deserve to
which
win.
Audiences will also be like, kya C-pa chal raha hai.
But it'll be
C-B-pa chal raha hai.
It'll be between Dinklage and, I would hope, Jonathan Banks.
Okay, let's move on to the next category really quickly. There's Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series. The nominees, of course, Lena Headey for Game of Thrones. Gwendolyn Christie for Game of Thrones. Sophie Turner for Game of Thrones. Macy Williams for Game of Thrones. Fiona Shaw for Killing Eve.
Game of Thrones?
No. Killing Eve, finally. And Julia Garner for Ozark.
So I think this category should have only 2 nominees. It should be Fiona Shaw for Killing Eve.
Three. It should be Lena Headey.
Oh yes, of course. Sorry.
So Lena Headey for Game of Thrones, Fiona Shaw for Killing Eve, Julia Garner for Ozark. Baki 3, they're there just because, I don't even know why there's so much Game of Thrones on all the freaking actor and the drama series nominees.
But my God, Julia Garner on Ozark is fantastic. Forget the fact that she's nominated. I don't even want to go into the fact whether she's the favorite, not favorite, or, about the competition and all of that. Julia Garner's track is so interesting. Because like you said, even though it's about Ozark is basically about the family, right?
Yeah.
It's about Jason Bateman and Laura Linney and their kids. The only other character apart from these who's even slightly interesting is Julia Garner. Also, she has a superb conflict on the show, which is that she's completely torn between being loyal to this guy who's shown her a new path of life and her family, who is, she takes a lot of difficult decisions during the course of the show, including killing off her uncle accidentally, and then it turns out, and there's this whole conflict about, did she do it deliberately? Was it accidental? And it's a very complex character which requires her to display a lot of emotions, right? And
Correct,
it's not
because she's constantly battling what the family, her family of dirtbags expects her to do, which is to be a dirtbag like them and to sort of, to rob Jason Bateman and his family and to sort of, swindle them into, getting all their money and all of their deals. And at the same time, she realizes that Bateman's a guy with a plan, the man with the plan. So as she sticks with him, she knows her future is going to be so much brighter and she's going to have a lot more prospects, and she's not going to be treated as this female dirtbag character. She could actually do a lot more with her life.
Yeah.
So she actually has a tremendous, especially in season 2. Season 1, she was sort of this shady character and we didn't know where she was going to go. Season 2 is where she's got her proper arc through the entire season. She's got a lot more scenes. She's got a lot more conflict. She's really someone, even the pundits say that she's a front runner for the award.
Yeah. So, I
want to talk about Fiona Shaw. Please. Because, again, in season 1 in Killing Eve, I didn't think much about Fiona Shaw. She was interesting. But in season 2, again, they've given her so much more to do. Like Kim Bodnia, they've given her also so much more to do in terms of, you don't realize that she's actually, whether she's playing Sandra Oh or whether she's actually a good guy.
And Fiona Shaw is such a great actor that she had only 2 scenes in Fleabag, which is another show created by the same person, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, where she plays the Fleabag's therapist for 2 scenes. And my God, those 2 scenes are probably the best scenes of the current season. She's that good.
She's just a really, really good actor. And in the sense that she brings a lot of surprise and mystery and you don't know what to expect. She's not one of those characters, she's going to play it
to
like
this character. To the character she plays on Killing Eve.
She's really good on Killing Eve.
Yeah, if Fiona Shaw wins, we'll again hear a great speech by a British actor. There's bound to be a lot of laughs in it.
The Game of Thrones guys have screwed it up for themselves. So many nominees, female nominees in one category. The fans are going to be split, even if there was sort of, a chance for Lena Headey to take it home.
Because the fans don't vote, Janice. The Emmy.
Sorry, the Emmy voters to vote for them to. I'm just saying the fact that there are 4 nominees now in the same category, it just
going to
splits
split the vote. No, absolutely. And also look, Gwendolyn Christie is somebody we've loved on the show, right? But it doesn't mean that I feel that she can win an Emmy. It's almost like we were talking about last week on the show we did about Orange is the New Black, which are such great characters. A character of Tasty, who we love, doesn't mean that Tasty would get nominated for her performance. So sometimes it's not about likable characters. It's got to do more with how good the actor is. And while Gwendolyn Christie is amazing, so is Maisie Williams by that logic. But I think among these 4, the only 2 actors who I feel deliver fantastic performances, of course, Lena Headey, because she makes being this bad person so fucking cool. And she's now in this season having dealt with all the trauma that she did due to her actions and having lost everything, her sons, her offspring. She still plays a character which remains as powerful as it was in season 1. And Lena Headey basically exudes that inner sort of strength which very few actors can do on screen. Similarly, Sophie...
If you want to break that image though, you just got to go watch one of her YouTube interviews and you're like, wow, this person is someone else opposite altogether. Yeah. She is just, she's cool and funny and witty in real life, and she's so cold and calculating on Game of Thrones.
And Sophie Turner, I I feel has had, I mean, since we are talking about Game of Thrones, this has got nothing to do with who should win the award or not win the award. But when we talk about character arcs, I think Sansa's character arc was the strongest on the show.
Yeah, over the 8 seasons.
When you saw episode 1 of the show and you met her for the first time, you could never imagine in your wildest dreams that she's going to get the best line in season 8, which is Uncle, please sit.
No, just do it properly. Uncle, please sit.
Yeah, it's Uncle, please sit.
Uncle, please sit is also the cool way. Like, तुमको कोई पका रहा है ना, just basically turn around and say, Uncle, please sit.
Yeah, Janice, please sit.
So rude. So rude.
So wrapping up, even though Sophie Turner and Lena Headey both are, the best actors on Game of Thrones among the supporting actresses, I would say Julia Garner for Ozark should be winning, and if not, like you said, although I'm not sure Fiona Shaw is
I don't think
favorite.
It's a winning performance, but it was a bloody good performance.
Right. So just quickly wrapping up, my favorites in all 4 categories. My favorite in the outstanding drama category is Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul. My favorite for the outstanding drama actress is Sandra Oh for Killing Eve. My favorite for the outstanding supporting actor in a drama series is, I'll go with Peter Dinklage for Game of Thrones. And my favorite for outstanding supporting actress in a drama series is Julia Garner for Ozark. What about you, Janice?
Okay, I'm going to go backwards. My supporting actress pick is Julia Garner. I'm going to go with Peter Dinklage in supporting actor as well. Outstanding drama actress, Sandra Oh. Sandra Oh, of course. I mean, I'd be happy if Judy Comer got it as well. But Sandra Oh, and outstanding drama actor. Tough one for me, given that I'm not a Better Call Saul fan. Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to say Sterling K. Brown.
All right, guys. Everyone who's tuning in, please remember that we're going to do a callback to this moment where Janice picked Sterling K. Brown for Best Actor and I picked Bob Odenkirk, and we're going to find out what happens.
Of course, Bob Odenkirk is winning, yeah. But
Emmy
I'm not a Better Call Saul fan, and I'm just
Janice,
like,
you picked yours. You don't have to give any
Fine, can I
explanation.
change it to Kit
No,
Harington?
you don't have to do anything.
At least the more like...
Yeah, if Kit Harington wins...
What will you do?
I will stop doing the Emmy special from next year onwards. But that was it. This was Janice and my first Emmy special. This was about the drama actors and actresses. Next week, Janice and I are going to be talking a whole lot about the comedy actors and actresses and the nominees in
Definitely a better fight
and
over
that's
there.
going to be an episode, and I'm actually looking forward to the more than the one we recorded today, because the amount of talent in the categories there is through the roof.
Yes.
That's going to be an episode to look out for. Tune in next week. And if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to either Janice or me, Janice is at JaniceSec85 on Twitter and Instagram. And I am at Ani Guha on Twitter and Instagram. This was the first of our Emmy specials. Stay tuned for a lot more next week.
Look! Up in the internet! It's a meme! No! It's a cat video! No! It's the Geek Fruit Podcast!
That's right, we interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, The Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.
Hello, everybody. We have a brand new daily podcast we're working on with Bloomberg Quint. All You Need to Know provides the top news on business, markets, and the economy so that you can stay ahead of the curve. Tune in every morning on BloombergQuint.com, the IVM Podcast app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.